Dan from Albany, New York, he said, "You're a fun Twitter follow, but how in the world can you defend Mel Kiper? He was obviously wrong and was blinded by vengeful rage and refused to admit he was wrong." Most of you know what Dan is talking about. If you don't, Mel Kiper just erupted this past weekend. Mel Kiper bordered on imploding in on himself like a dying star over Shedeur Sanders. He had Shedeur rated as his number one overall quarterback, and then Shedeur fell to the 5th round. And I don't know how upset Dion was, but it pales in comparison to how upset Mel Kiper was. And I was entertained by every minute of it, and I said as such. So I did the classic comparative analysis. Some of you may watch pro wrestling, most of you don't. That's okay. So pro wrestling has long since exposed itself, which is pathetic, by the way, which just means they give you the show and then they can't wait to tell you how they did it. That makes a magician's illusion all the better. They do it, and then 5 minutes later they have a press conference telling you how they did it. This is neither here nor there. But I made the point this past weekend that The Rock shows up a month ago, inserts himself into this big storyline leading up to WrestleMania, and then he's a ghost at WrestleMania, and everyone's like, well, wait a second. Where was The Rock? Point is, they bailed on an angle. And I looked at Mel Kiper, and Mel Kiper had been 10 toes down for Shedeur Sanders, and on night one, as Shedeur kept falling in the draft, and Mel Kiper kept banging that drum louder and louder, and the night ended, and Mel Kiper said, "This is crazy," and then they went off the air. I thought to myself, do not bail, Mel Kiper. You have built the ship. You got to go down with it. Stand tall. And he came on air the next day, and he, if anything, he crowded the plate more. He gripped the bat tighter. You could see sawdust coming off that thing. I was so happy with Mel Kiper, because here is where I can tell many of you disagree with me. I don't know that Mel Kiper was wrong. He was wrong in his mock draft. So clearly, he and many other people whiffed about where Shedeur Sanders was going to go. But if that's being wrong, then everyone was wrong. I was wrong. You were wrong. Everyone was wrong. But I'm not talking about that. It's Mel Kiper's sincere belief that Shedeur Sanders was the best quarterback in this draft, and he's going to end up being a success. You don't know if he's wrong about that. It hasn't happened yet. So how do you know he's wrong? He was wrong in what he expected to happen in the draft. What he expects to happen in that kid's career, we'll see. We're all going to watch that. It'll be fascinating theater. But here's where I differ. I found I differ with many of you on this. I rely on people like Mel Kiper to have well thought out opinions, and then I want them to be steadfast and present them and don't back down on air. That's all I need. Really, at the end of the day, we're talking about a draft to go play football. That's really what we're talking about. And so I don't need to agree with you. Who in the world on TV do you agree with 100% of the time? Who in life do you agree with 100% of the time? What would you rather have seen Mel Kiper do? I genuinely ask this because I think many of us disagree on this. So I watched Mel Kiper night one, and he's Shedeur, and then day 2, he's even more hardcore, and then day 3, he was apoplectic, and I thought it was just some of the best TV I've ever seen, and I disagree with a lot of what he said. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's not the worst thing in the world if I disagree with someone. What I'd much rather see is Mel Kiper stand solidly and principled behind a belief of his, no matter how many people disagree, than to waffle on it. That's what I didn't want to see. Hey, quick timeout. Check and see if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're not, I humbly ask that you click subscribe. It's free. It doesn't sign you up for anything. What it does is it helps us keep this show free so we can just do college football year round. All right, back to the clip. And so I appreciated it. That was my point. He said a lot of stuff that I personally disagreed with. If he were sitting here right now, I mean, we could have a conversation about it, and I'd have 5 points I disagreed on, but I'd be so appreciative of the way he handled himself. So I don't necessarily know that, draft coverage is for me. I really don't, because apparently most of you disagreed with it. But then again, I would say that for everyone who turned it off because of Mel Kiper, I'd say many more people turned it on. But if you didn't like their coverage, I got great news for you. You could have flipped it over to NFL Network. You could have flipped it over to ABC. You could have flipped it over to many of the digital feeds. You could have gone and watched McAfee smoke vitamins on air. There are several options. It's the beauty of choice. So if you didn't like Mel Kiper, to me, if I didn't like Mel Kiper, I would have changed the channel. I did it a few times. He said some stuff. I said, let me go see what Saban's saying. Let me go see what they're saying on this. Klatt did coverage. Klatt did draft coverage this year. Let me go see what Joel Klatt's saying. I just change the channel for a little while and come back. I didn't rage watch it. So that's how, to answer the question, that's how I defend Mel Kiper. Because he had an opinion and he stuck to it, and he may end up being crucified for this for the next decade. But you know what? Heaven help every one of you if Shedeur ends up getting a starting job in Cleveland. And if Cleveland is any kind of pulse this year on the radar in the AFC North, I pray for every one of you, because I'll be right there with Mel Kiper. Don't think I'll hesitate to say we in relation to me and Mel Kiper when Shedeur starts shining, if he does. I'll go me and Mel Kiper all day long. He will be insufferable if Shedeur Sanders succeeds in the NFL, and he should be. You think Kiper's going to get fired if Shedeur doesn't pan out? He's probably more likely to get fired if Shedeur thrives, because I don't think any human being that endured as much criticism as Mel Kiper just did this past weekend could contain themselves. I think it's a pumpkin pie in the face of the rest of humanity if Shedeur ends up doing anything at the NFL level, much less being the best guy at that position in this draft. So there you go.